Okay.
Live stream is on.
Okay. So, as always, intentions for the call and dream. What is your dream commons? So, for example, Danny's dream commons was Radical Exchange Gathering Commons, which is built to fund and maintain Radical Exchange meetup groups all around the world. That's her dream, and that's what we're going to do for the Commons Simulator. I have a lot of intentions for the call. I want to make sure that we live stream it because I forgot to do it last time. I want to talk about the narrative. I'm curious if anyone wants to talk about doing a cadCAD workshop with me. And I want to make sure that we have time to go over the design that Max created. And my dream DAO would be to probably do the token engineering commons. That's kind of our DAO. You would think it would be the common stack DAO, but really it's let me mute someone here. But really, the common stack DAO isn't as important as the token engineering commons, because sure, we can do the common stack, but if we start token engineering commons and we can really advance this field of science, I think we can solve so many problems in ways that common stack may or may not be able to address. So I'll pass it to Sam.
Hello. Intentions for the call, set up the narrative, which is something that we have to do at some point, and it's a good moment. And maybe explain what Max has been doing, because we already have some Figma file with the design. And the commons that I would like to support, I'm not going to be very original, but it is free software, which is the one that I have been more consistently supporting during many years. And I am going to pass it to Spacer.
I think that's you, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was eating across the room. Yeah. Yeah, I'm here to get the deep dive, and I've been here last week, and let's see if I can be of any help. I haven't looked if the Figma file was shared already, so that's the thing I'm most interested in probably, and to know how long the design period will be expected to be and when we should put the design into code. Those would be my questions, and I give it to Juliet.
Juliet, are you there? Okay, no luck from Juliet. Let's pass it to David.
Hi guys. So yeah, my microphone works again, and I can also hear you. My main interest for the call today is to progress on the narrative, see how we're going to go about that, and of course talk about the design as well. Those are the main things, and I just want to find out as much as I can about what everybody else is thinking about the radical exchange, the general everything about it, because I've been, ever since the first radical exchange in Berlin, I've been hooked on the topic, so picking brains.
And what's your dream commons?
Sorry, I didn't get that because I guess I don't have the best headphones here.
Sorry, what?
I didn't get that. I guess I really have to get a different mic. This is terrible. I didn't understand.
Your dream commons. So if you could make a commons around any cause that you could dream of, what would it be?
That's a good one. But I guess so my dream commons would be a co-working commons, a commons where people can actually, share their living and workspaces fluidly. This is something that I have proposed during the first DAO-Fest. I've pedaled back a bit on that, but this would be my dream commons. But as I said, I haven't really simulated that, so I don't know if it's doable, but if it would be doable, it would be that.
Nice. Okay, now you get to pick someone.
And I give it to, I guess I'm the last one, right?
No?
Who else is there? Actually, I'm on the
Well,
phone. So
I think Juliet is back, right? Are you there, Juliet? Oh, you're muted.
I think she says her microphone doesn't seem to be working.
Ah, okay. Then
Does the
Okay.
hand work? Because I'm trying to like.
Oh, is that you, Pablo?
Yeah.
Your hand up? Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry to preempt. So basically, my task for the call is I want to go up to speed with two things. One is the general state of the project, of the design, and as Kay mentioned, to see where I can start plugging in once development is available. So either myself or I would possibly also try and recommend somebody, one of my friends and colleagues, to perhaps participate in a more technical side of the implementation. To get on board with the whole radical exchange narrative, which I've sort of haven't been up to speed with. So, and three, just sort of listen in and catch up. I know I've been doing a lot of catching up, but you guys have been doing a lot of progress, so that's great. As for the Dream Commons, I was going to mention something about, if you asked me like 3 months ago, it probably would have been some kind of knowledge sharing and space sharing commons, but now I have a different answer, which is a commons to clean up the city and the area where I live, because Belgrade has been incredibly polluted. Actually, in January, in a few days, it was the most polluted city in the world, and it's really, really bad. So, yeah, that is very important to me. And it is a commons thing, and it's not something that can be solved easily. So, yeah, that's about it. Should I pass the baton to somebody else, or?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not sure who's left. So can somebody try and raise? Sorry about the cat. Can somebody?
Well, Jack.
There's
Yeah,
a cat
sure.
in the background, and it's annoying.
I like your cat, Pablo. Don't worry.
Yeah, I feel actually too. Maybe. Well, maybe she's hungry. Anybody else? Come on.
Yeah, for sure. Intention for this call, intended to be a bit of a fly on the wall. I'm excited to follow along with development and keep my finger on the pulse with this project. And we'll be working on a few other things at the same time. My dream commons would probably be a decarbonization commons, encouraging local community efforts to reduce consumption and stay within planetary limits for climate change. And I will pass it on to who hasn't gone yet. Sam?
Sam went.
I've already gone.
I think Fabio.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one left. So hi everyone. Intentions first to catch up and sync with the rest of what's going on. Then I had actually last week I did a first version of the 3 graph for the for the simulator, COM simulator, and to verify that we are on track. There are some questions there. We don't need to answer them in this call if there are other priorities. But I'm not sure how to continue there, so that would be nice. And but also, if I am just getting ahead of time with this, and we should wait for designer first or how we want to proceed there. And Dreams Commons, I'm pretty classical there and broad and general. Nature is really jeopardized by everything we do and how to take care of it, not just of something abstract and out there, but being the very thing that we live on, which means it's so important. And that's it. I think everyone spoke.
Yeah, I think so. So then the next section is to popcorn agenda items. So I heard some during the intentions, but please interrupt if I miss any or pop any in. Definitely going over the design. Sam, do you want to handle that or do you want me to?
I prefer you to.
Okay. And I think it'll take 20 minutes to do that, unfortunately, because I want to make sure that you guys can have some questions. And then talk narrative, I think I can pull that off for sure. Great. And I'll try to keep it short. And then was there anything else that came up that we want to talk about in this call?
About development, probably, because of Fabio. What
Okay.
do you say?
And that would be you, Sam, right? How much time do you need?
I don't know, because this week I could not do so much things, and probably this is something more related with how we continue during this spring. During this sprint, and 5 minutes. I think.
I'll try to make sure we have some time for that. Okay, so then, is there anything else, guys? If so, add it to the agenda. If something comes up that you want to make sure you have space for, I will go into the notes document and check the agenda and make sure that we have it. But let's start with the Figma. I inserted the Figma into the Telegram group, so you can grab that link. And maybe I'll share a screen. My internet is kind of shitty, so here's hoping that it works out. If not, just try to follow along in the Figma itself. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah? Can anyone see my screen?
I can't.
No?
No.
I can't either.
It says that you have connectivity issues.
Yeah, my internet's not really good enough for me to share my screen, I think. Here, I'll try refreshing, but...
okay, I can also share mine.
Yeah, that would probably be better.
Let's see.
But also everyone has the Figma up, right? You can all see it. Okay, so the first page is the landing page. It's the entry. And the idea here is picking the comments. So honestly, this page can kind of be skipped for this sprint and maybe next sprint. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but this will be where people come in and choose which commons they want to do. The first one will be the radical exchange gathering commons, but eventually we'll have other narratives that they can choose. And so it'll just be like they can kind of scroll through and see the picture and the little description of that. But let's go to the next screen because we're not going to work on this for a couple of weeks at least. So
Quick question. Do I have to create an account on this Figma to see things really? Or I don't see, I just see small boxes.
Yeah, you zoom in. You gotta zoom in.
With control and the wheel.
Oh, I see. Cool, yes.
So
Thanks.
we're going down to gameplay and defining your community. So this is the screen we're going to start on for now, and this is right now it's all built around in the Figma. It's using the text I made for an orphans commons in Barcelona, but obviously all this text will be worked on in this week and next to be retrofitted for the Radical Exchange. But the idea here is that we're actually going to have a character as part of the gameplay. And so there'll be a cool, hopefully solar punk vibe image of a character that the narrative is built around to kind of bring the person into the adventure. And then the person who's doing the common simulation will have to choose two parameters in the community. It doesn't really matter what the parameters are right now, but for every one of these gameplay pieces, there'll be two parameters and some graphs that change when people move the parameters. So yeah, let's go to the next one. Same thing. Story continues. Two parameters. And it starts with the community, then this is the hatch, and then we go to the next one, because I'm going to try to get through this fast.
Interesting.
Then we have augmented bonding curve, two parameters, graphs, a character that's having an adventure, and then next one.
Conviction voting.
Yep. So that's the gameplay. We need to have some gamification within this, whether it's some kind of, I think we're probably going to add a progress bar to make people not think that they have to do this forever, and try to make it as fun as we can. And there's going to be a lot of work this week on gamification along with the narrative. And then once they've gone through the game, that part, then we go to the next screen, which is the waiting screen, basically. And here the idea is we'll just put something funny up, some meme, you know. Sam was talking about maybe making it be like, hey, the cadCAD is predicting the future, you know, that sort of thing. And then we go to the results. So in the results page, we'll show them the price of the token over time and the amount of funds that was being spent on the commons that they created over time. And then they have to choose if they want to submit it to a high scores, or submit or start over with this story, or start over with a different story. So that's the choices. We want them to feel like it's a challenging game, so we don't want to let them just go back and edit their things. This is Max's idea. But if they decide to submit to high scores, then we go to the last page, and this is where they see the top scores that they get. We'll probably have a couple different metrics, a couple different high scores that show them how they competed against everyone else who played. We're also considering trying to make it more cooperative by allowing people to take over other people's commons and like adjust the parameters a little bit. We're not really sure. These are some of these things have to be decided this week about how we want to gamify it, where we want to add cooperation in, as it's a challenging thing. But that's kind of the speed through of the design. Yeah, Kai?
So I'm just wondering, Sam, I know you have been, I think part of this is already real, right? Or maybe there was another simulation. I was just wondering if with two parameters, there would be enough diversity to have like really this high score thing.
Well,
And
there's 2 parameters per page, so you have 8 parameters.
oh, okay, they look like the same because it's always the same. So, okay, cool. All right. For gamification, I have some tips, but I can put that in the end.
Also, we can. There are much more parameters in cadCAD in the simulation of the conviction, and maybe what we can do is that those advanced parameters not to let the user choose them, but they are embedded inside the story. If we are talking about radical exchange, we may want to set up some of the parameters in a setting that has sense for radical exchange. So maybe you select the participants, but you are not selecting their influences or their what's the word? The degree of their. There are some advanced parameters that we can set up for each simulation.
Sorry to shoot with another question, but do you think it would be possible to not have like really sliders where arbitrarily numbers change for the player, but make it more event driven in a way that's like, so a decision comes and then you decide, because that's what usually be, a game is usually working like that. So you, as a player, you have to constantly make decisions and you don't know the outcome, but you don't know some of your starting data. Just from the top of your head, do you think you could replace some of the sliders with like decision stuff?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
I mean, I think that would be really cool in the narrative.
So the way I
maybe what we
I think that would also make the. Sorry, who's talking?
You are, David. Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, because the raising hands feature would be like really helpful at the moment. I was just saying this would, if we could have a, like a narrative wrap around each parameter, it would give it more like a crypto zombies feel if you've taken a look at that. So, for instance, establishing like a tax parameter could be wrapped in a decision problem between 3 players or 3 actors inside the story that actually have to come to terms with something, and you actually just slip into a role of one of them, and it's more like a story that you read and you just play a role in that. So I think this is a really good idea to actually wrap it that way. Depends, of course, on the types of people that it's supposed to attract. So I guess that's where the buck stops.
Sam, what were you saying?
Maybe we can also run cadCAD for the first year, then you get to decide if you want to change something in the simulation. You run cadCAD for the second year, up to 5 years, and your final result is the 5 years score. But not sure if it is really possible at the moment to use a. We should change some from the cadCAD simulation to be able to do that, and I am yet not sure if that's something that is feasible fast or not.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't play Crypto Zombies. Is it? I didn't play it, and I don't really get how it is. So if you, David, can explain it, or somebody else knows how it works.
Oh, well, how should I explain it? So you have a full page interface, and so it's essentially like an interactive coding lab, with the fact that that you're actually following along a story, so to say, that's focused on the Crypto Zombies kind of product, and it's the writing style is very conversational, and from the user interface point of view, you put the code in the section where you expect to develop the rest of the story. So I think it's mostly focused on how we word things. I'm not sure how to design this as an interface in cadCAD, but I like the idea actually that we have gated simulation stages. So we first simulate the first year, then we kind of wrap up, we go to the next page, so to speak, and then we see, okay, those are the results, depending on what the parameters were chosen. We get a different outcome in the story. It's pretty much like a text-based adventure. That's how I kind of envision it. Yeah, I guess that's the best description, kind of text-based adventure kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I would definitely try to limit anything that is like, oh, maybe we could do this, but it would require changes to cadCAD and a feasibility study. Just because, you know, we don't have like a lot of resources to pull that off, and hopefully we can stay scoped with this narrative and this on the MVP like that we've already scoped out, and not try to add too much to what we already have, which I think is more than enough to bite off.
I may have an input on that. So let me try and rephrase the question that was asked and focus on setting up the commons, setting up the stack, setting up the curve, setting up the voting, and so on and so forth. So let's just focus on that, because that's already planned without this close simulation unrolling and intermittent stages and so on and so forth. So the way I see it is, how can we map the existing, knobs and valves of the simulation to a something that's narratable, something that's like a story or a choose your own adventure type progression in a game, because I don't really have it mapped in my head. It's still quite abstract, and I think a lot of players will find themselves confused because of the abstract nature of the common stack and the simulation itself.
And I think what David and Kai kind of brought up is a really useful tool around that, where it's like, okay, you're really just a character trying to solve a problem, and you have come across the common stack, and now you're faced with a set 8 specific decisions that you have to make that you to simulate your commons, so you can see if it's going to be a success, and whether or not we actually pretend like it's a simulation, or if we actually say, okay, now you're building your commons, maybe that's the direction we go, and we just walk through someone how they will create this. But the overarching requirements to do that are, Kai posted this awesome link in the Telegram group just now about gamification, and we need to pick probably 2 of those 8 gamification techniques to apply to our narrative, maybe even 3 if we can pull it off, to make sure that it's engaging and fun and challenging, and that people want to come back and play it. So that's how we try to make it less confusing, is just by making it simple terms and to try.
That makes perfect sense. I guess the task, if nobody wants to say anything, I guess I'll just continue. Sorry. I guess the task ahead is 1, branch from right now we have a broad narrative discussion. So create a flow that would match this narrative, and that it would be a part of the sort of the game experience, the UX, and so on and so forth. That's the one. And the second is, again, are we trying to abstract away the for example, some of the values from the simulator? Are we trying to put them somehow in a narrative context so that they're more easily understood, or are we leaving them as is and just explaining them? For example, and I apologize because I've I keep forgetting this. There's, for example, some parameters for conviction voting. So it's just like, I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so, you know, we need to set up the voting for commons, yada yada, and there's this parameter called alpha, and we set it between this and that. So
Yeah, and so like for alpha, for instance, instead of just saying, "Hey, this is alpha," and let's pick alpha, we actually would say something along the lines of, "How many days do you want it to take to reach, 80% of the full voting power for each member, right?" And then from them choosing the number of days, then we can derive alpha. And same with like kappa is another one, which is basically describes the curvature of the curve, and we say like, hey, what do you want your curve to look like? How flat should it be? And then they move the dial, right? And that determines kappa, but that not because they're giving us an actual number for what kappa is, but because they're dial that makes the bonding curve more sharp or less sharp, more flat. So it's definitely going to take some creativity, but I hope that we don't require anyone in the main play to have to like try to figure out what the hell kappa is. But with tooltips and rollover like question mark things, we can teach a lot that's kind of outside the narrative. So we have like the mainstay narrative, and then hopefully we can have more information in like embedded that people can find, but they have to like look for it or scroll over it to find it.
Just a quick comment, as I believe there will be many people attracted to this who are not very technical, and thus I think it should go. I mean, it's great with everything which has been said. I think it should go even a step further, because telling some people what it means to have a curve going up slower or faster isn't making any bell ring. So maybe we should go even further in simplifying the message there and saying, I don't know what it actually means, which I myself not feel clear yet. But
I agree,
that's what I mean.
when we make that curve of the that curvature of the curve more pronunciated or less, we can put some messages like, if somebody buys 100 dice of the token, they are going to receive whatever. I think that we can explain with simple examples what you are exactly doing and what are the implications.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that we make people feel like they are technical and that they're being technical, because in the end they're designing an economy, right? And you don't want to feel like, oh yeah, I'm a kindergartner, I'm going to make the next economy. It's like, no, we got to at least make them feel like I don't think we should dumb it down so much where it's like, oh, I'm just, we'll see what happens. But it should also have it should be light and easy, but it should also be like, oh, you are smart, dude. Wow, you really understand this, don't you? Give that impression.
And the thing is to make the game as educational as possible. So I think that the copy there is about, hey, token engineer, we dare you to create a sustainable commons. So we identify people as token engineers, and at the same time, we are going to provide all the information they need in order to take good decisions.
Yeah.
or bad decision. They must be conscious of what they are doing. This is part of the gameplay.
Pax the Max, do you have something? Probably.
Sorry, I was chasing the cat again. Well, I guess it's a little far from my perception how this game will look, and more importantly, I may understand how it will look, but I can't really understand how it will feel. I had some very little experience designing games, and it was you think about it a lot. You plan it, and then you bring it together, and you test it, and it just feels different. So that's number one. When you look at a game, it won't really start coming together until it starts coming together. The second part is the thing that the impression that I'm having, and it's not really a good thing or a bad thing, is that the simulator is a bit of like a Skinner box. It's like, okay, you have this cool story, and it's like, wow, you're doing this radical exchange, and here are some knobs that you can try, and some of them are really well. Some of them you understand really well. Some of them you don't. Like, you don't really understand why the slope of the curve should be like this or that, but maybe you have some intuitive understanding, and maybe you want to just try it out. And that's the way I see the game will actually function, which is basically you just run it, and you play with some options for a little bit, and it gives you an outcome. And then you're like, cool, let's see if I can try it again. Then you try it again a little bit, the simulation runs, it gives you an outcome, and then you can compare it against previous attempts. So that's the to pardon, perhaps I'm butchering the term, but it's the core gameplay loop, so to speak.
Yeah.
You can't really gleam into getting everything right the first time, because if you could set everything up correctly, then you don't need the simulator. You just sort of know magically, you know how to set up the commons, and it works. But you don't. You wanna try. You wanna research, and the core gameplay loop should be something, at least in my opinion, based on these multiple attempts of setting up.
Yeah.
So maybe tracking what's going on over time could be an interesting gameplay sort of component.
Yeah, and I do think that on those second and third loops, people will be like, okay, hold on, what does this do? And be looking for more information within the thing. And then on their second and third and fourth times through is when they actually maybe learn more about what is the augmented bonding curve doing, what is conviction, what is beta, like why am I choosing this variable? How does it affect things? But okay. Well, I think we need to move on to the next topic, which is the narrative, just so we don't get stuck on the design. Although we mostly were already talking about the narrative. I'm going to paste the link to our narrative doc here in the Telegram, but it's basically the MVP doc with some added pieces. This is mostly written for our writer, who I think, David, you want to be probably the writer, it sounds like. I also made a give us milestone for it that has a lot of the stuff in it. But the idea is that we basically fill this out, and the writer will end up taking this document and owning it completely, and it's there, and they can start deleting stuff. They can use the information that's here as they want. But the first thing for writing this narrative is doing research. And really talking to the key stakeholders. So we've talked a lot about like the overall vibe of it being solar punk and this stuff, but we have a team that needs to stay in the loop on this narrative. And so the main core people are Max, Sam, and I, and Danny, who knows most about the radical exchange piece. So Max is the designer. He's not here today, but hopefully he'll come to the next meeting. There was a conflict, but he is the main designer, and he's probably the number one person who needs to be in sync with the narrative, because if we, for instance, if we want to separate it out between the variables that people are tweaking into a single decision, he's going to need to move that stuff on the wireframe, so text in between the two sliders, right? And maybe it means that we need to have more screens. So, and he's also the gamification expert. So our writer will need to definitely stay in touch with Max. Stem is the lead dev and also has a lot of skin in the game here, and so do I. So hopefully we'll all be in the loop. And after a couple hours of research, talking to each of these people, we could probably start writing the narrative. That's the jam. And then the rest of this doc is just like stuff that if you find it useful, it's there. And I moved the example narrative that I wrote a month ago to the side because it doesn't have that much value, but reading through it once might give you an idea. So yeah, that's the Radical Exchange writing doc. Any questions on this?
And can we use the current narrative about the outcomes of Barcelona Commons for finish this iteration? And on the next week we change with the next narrative and also the.
Do you mean for working on the front end?
Yes. Working this week, what we still we're in the middle of a sprint. So at the end of the sprint next week, we should have something functional, and we already have that orphans narrative that can be used.
I mean, I would say you can put it in. I just wouldn't put too much effort into matching the design to the front end of the current application right now, because it already sounds like we're going to need to move buttons around. We're going to need to add a character. There's a lot of things that are still kind of moving.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would leave most of the front end design as it is. And yeah, if you want to just replace the lorem ipsum stuff with the Barcelona narrative because it feels better, I think that's fine, of course.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we kind of did already talk about the narrative a lot. I think the big piece is figuring out our gamification and talking to everybody, and then we'll see what our writer comes up with this week. The big thing with the writing thing is that the milestone is really for this week. It's like having at least an outline of the rough draft, if not the entire rough draft, by next Monday, so that we can talk about it in this meeting on Tuesday. This is the thing. What do you feel pretty good about this, David? And it is David, right?
David is right. Yeah, you can call me Dog, but I only use it as a shorthand so people can tell me apart from other Davids. So
okay,
David's fine.
Okay.
I think I am. By Sunday European time, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 p.m. Sounds fine by me. But wasn't there somebody else who was also interested in writing this?
Yeah,
I don't even remember who it was. Yeah, Cindy. What about her?
Cindy never responded to my DMs, and she didn't come to the call. So this.
I'm gonna spend an interesting weekend. Yeah. Cool.
Do you have a lot going on this week?
This week, not after Friday. I think I can definitely come up with something. Yeah, I will probably have a more detailed conversation with you for sure, and Danny as well, to just get a better feel for the entire thing. Maybe even a call, like 10, 15 minutes, just to get a better impression, and then I'll just, set my creativity to task and see what we come up with. That's kind of my approach.
I would definitely try to get a call with Max in as well, and I can introduce you to on Telegram, and maybe a quick call with Sem as well. The call with Max, hopefully, it might even take an hour, because that's like the big one. And if you can do that research all before Friday, and then have the weekend to kind of hack on it with like a foundation, I think that'll work out really well.
So in terms of before Friday, I can do the call on Thursday. Thursday is what I can do. Actually, all the calls, but tomorrow I'm definitely full. But if you could set this up in the chat, like a shared chat, so we can just find time slots for that. That would be great.
Okay, yeah, we can set that up.
Nice.
I can set that up. I'll help make sure it works. And luckily, you're in the Berlin time zone, which is where all the people who are hard to get a hold of are also. So.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
That's good. No, it's good, because then you can call them in during the day, which is amazing.
Nice,
right?
nice.
Okay. Well, let's make some time for development progress. Sam, did you have something that you wanted to bring up for this?
Yeah, Fabio. Well, yeah, maybe Fabio can explain, because he has been working on the network with proposals and participants, and we already have a first pull request with that graph, and he had some questions.
So I did the first version of graph displayed in D3, the classical nodes graph with connections. That was based on our conversations with SEMS about what cadCAD generates in the current version as images, and wanted to make it dynamic and interactive on the front end. By looking at the data I get from cadCAD, I get nodes which are of different types, and links as well have different types. So it's not that you just display a graph with all nodes. There is semantics behind the nodes and the graph. So for example, node can be a participant and can be a proposal. And the link can be between participants and the proposal. And if you have such a link, then it's a support link. Then there are links between participants and participants, which are of type influences. So I don't understand what that means actually, but in some way the participants influence each other. And there are links between proposals itself, which are conflicts. So the current version was a bit filtering and just shows if you click on a node, if it is a participant, it would show all. Like you're sharing screen. I don't see it actually.
It's super cool.
I hope others do.
There are. These are the participants. These are the proposals. They are also. If they are big, this means that they are big token holders. And if it's a proposal, it's that it's requesting a lot of funds. And when you click on one of them, it should show the support that proposal have among those participants. So probably with the color, we should say that participant supports a lot that proposal, but that participant, because it is a red color, doesn't support it. We could have something like that, you know?
Very cool. And if you adjust the number of proposals and the number of participants?
Yes, for sure. We have to
change it?
Let me regenerate everything because there is still some. You want participants?
Well, yeah, the current version. If in the current version you have to click run again for the backend to give you back a new graph. If you want the graph to adjust on every change of a slider, we can of course do that. It would just mean that on change of the graph of the slider, the backend call is immediately issued and the graph updates. But there, I have to say a note of caution there because you have no control over the user. So I have had experiences where these graphs very quickly overload because they can't keep up with the updates because if people change too fast. So that actually ties to what has been said before, that it might not necessarily be a slider because you can just drag the slider and change it very often, and that generates a lot of traffic, and the front end is not able to update quickly enough. Just as a note of caution.
For some reason, when I run again, it generates new nodes and new proposals. So this is why I am refreshing the page before I generate the new graph. But probably we can solve it. So for this one, we are going to have less participants, but much more proposals. Okay, and we run it, and we obtain that there are more proposals and less participants. And this is kind of randomized too. The proposals. I'm sorry, the participants' holdings are randomized, and still, when you click one of them, you see their supports. And between proposals and between participants, they also have some nodes that connect among them, because between participants they influence each other, and between proposals they can conflict with each other. So maybe we can also show them when we click on one proposal or one participant. Not sure yet how we can show all that data in just one graph. Maybe with tabs or so.
We also don't have to show all the data. It's often the best idea is often to show less data. Right? Just pick the most.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
In fact, I would suggest, first of all, I would actually suggest that the designer also gets involved in these network diagrams and all the diagrams, so that he can give input, because the designers just often have a better, exactly these kind of views, how to display things in an intuitive way. And secondly, to what my current suggestion, which the only one I think makes sense from my skills and background, would be to have some kind of a radio button for 3 different options. So you could show, for example, who supports what, then what conflicts with what, and what influences what. And then if you, depending on what is selected, the network would show something different. But that's something we can do, but I'm totally aware that with the narrative change and the design changes, it doesn't need to stay like that. I'm just saying a proposal or what we could do today.
Well, it looked amazing. It looks incredible. it's gorgeous. It's just spinning there like a galaxy. You know, it looks really cool. There's I want to mention, we don't have time to really talk about it, but I did do a budget plan, and the long story short, we got $6,200 to spend on this project. The plan is to do 2-week sprints, and this sprint right now will end on February 10th. On February, within a couple of days after that, Sam and I will basically see who did work and then dish out money. It's unfortunately a little bit subjective, but our goal is to minimize overhead, and we are going to try to be really responsible and make sure everyone is comfortable with the way things are happening on how we dish out this money, and make sure it's very transparent. And if any kind of money issues come up, it's totally cool to talk about it openly in the channel, in these calls. Don't feel weird about that. We want to try to keep it open and transparent. We're going to distribute funds at the end of these 2-week sprints according to the budget that's laid out, or according to the weekly sync, like how we do it. But we're not going to say how much in each sprint, because it depends on how much work we think gets done to get us to the goal. And some payments won't be in that way. Some payments will be upfront, like this bounty on the narrative, which has its own milestone and its own clear form of payments. So we're kind of going to do a mix of like totally subjective, like this is how much we think work people did this week, and then we're also going to do bounties with clear, like this is how much gets done, as well as common stack tokens for praise will be awarded at the end of every month. In fact, after this, I have to go to a praise meeting to figure out all that praise that we dished. How much, like, how do we distribute the tokens for the month to all those people? So,
there is one important thing there. People at the end of the sprint checks in with how much hours they have dedicated.
Yes, and I'm tasking Juliet, actually. I haven't gotten to talk to her yet, but she helps out with a lot of this cat herding stuff. She's going to make sure that everyone fills out this spreadsheet, which is basic, or at least that everyone who has been coming to these calls knows that it's time to fill out this spreadsheet, and it's really short. I'll paste it in the Telegram chat.
And the role of Griff and me is just to review that everything is legit or has sense. But what is in the spreadsheet probably is what we are going to be spreading out to the people who is working that week.
Yeah. So, but we're over time. I should have put that on the agenda. Sorry about that. But yeah, so thank you guys for the call, and we'll talk again next week and over this week. We got a lot of work to do. So I think I got to end it. And Sam, can we go to another room and chat too?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Speak to you soon. Ciao.